From Everybody Studios, we're jumping off the pages of Southpark Magazine as we bring the stories to life that make up the art and soul of Charlotte. This is Southpark Says with Krisha Chachra. Well, pull up, turn it up, and take a seat. It's fall in the Queen City, and that means it's the beginning of sports season. Football, baseball, basketball, just to name a few. Time to cheer on your favorite team and learn some insights about the industry. This is episode 10 of Southpark Says with Krisha Chachra. Joining me in today's studio at Everybody Studios is Ashley Stroehlein. She is the sideline reporter for ESPN and recently FanDuel, and also an NBA host for them.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, just recently.
You're breaking news here. Yeah. So,
I know, thank you. I always like getting the scoop.
Right, you got it.
Welcome to the Everybody Studios, and nice to have you, Ashley. So tell us, let's just jump in and talk about this new project that you have going with FanDuel.
Yeah, well, I'm really grateful and fortunate, and last season I was able to work for FanDuel on select Hornets games, and so from that it just kind of opened up the doors for other opportunities within that network, and I'll still be based in Charlotte. I think everyone thinks I'm moving to Minnesota, but I'm not. I'm fortunate enough to stay in the Queen City, and then I'll just travel with the team to do some of their road games, and I'll host pre and post game shows. And ironically enough, my first road game with the Timberwolves will be right here in Charlotte at Spectrum Center against the Hornets.
There you go. We can't get rid of you. No, we're going to pull you back in, of course, for your first game. Well, that's so exciting. So for those of us that are listening who are not necessarily familiar with all the team names, the Timberwolves are the NBA, that is basketball, right? The basketball team in Minnesota, and you were assigned to them. Now, they have done really well in the last season, and I don't know, you think you're going to take them all the way with your good energy?
I would love that. I hope it goes that direction, not the opposite direction, because then they'll be like, no, she can't come back. So, but yeah, no, the Timberwolves have been in the Western Conference Finals the last 2 seasons. They have one of the new faces of the league in Anthony Edwards, someone who I think folks that watch the league are really excited about his development and where he's at. And I think also with LeBron James kind of getting towards the end of his career, everyone's looking for who is the next face of the league, right? Steph Curry as well. Like, we're going to hold on to those guys as long as we can and continue to get good moments and games out of them. But I think Anthony Edwards is someone that folks are kind of looking like, can he rise and be the new face of the league? And in Charlotte, LaMelo Ball is one of those candidates, I think, as well. He just has to stay healthy for the team. Yeah.
Well, that's what we're all hoping for. Yeah. So, well, wonderful. You'll be able to give us some insight about what's happening in Charlotte as well later on in the podcast. But it is nice to kind of branch out a little bit, I would imagine.
It is, because I always say Charlotte's been so good to me. So my journey in this industry has just been very interesting. When I moved to North Carolina, I was a high school math teacher and JV basketball and track coach. And as we were talking before the podcast, I grew up in a very small town in Virginia. No red light. People don't believe me when I tell them that, but we still don't have one. So I can take you back now and you'll see not a lot's changed. But
there's a green light though, because everyone's going somewhere, right?
Exactly. all the way.
Going away.
Yeah. Still a great place to go back to. And I loved growing up there, but it's nice to be in the Charlotte community now. And when I moved down, I'll never forget the first time I drove into Uptown, and I was like, wow, oh my gosh, like
big city.
Now it feels very small, but it continues to grow. But first impression, I just couldn't believe that I was living here. And then I started to look around. I'm like, okay, wait, we have all these local TV stations and radio stations and pro sports teams. Maybe I can work in sports, but what does that look like? And I emailed everybody's email address I could find that was in the business or at one of the professional teams that we had here. And very few people wrote back, but a couple people did, and they allowed me to come shadow them. And that led me to go back to school for broadcasting, and then interned and was a news editor and a sports photog, and finally got to come on air and call some high school football highlights over at WBTV on their show there with Delano Little. He was my mentor and gave me my start. And from there, just continued to work my way up and went over to WCNC Charlotte for a while, and then about a year ago left so I could pursue college football at ESPN, and then these opportunities with FanDuel Sports Network. And as we were also talking, there's a lot of I do a little bit of everything. Like I host for SiriusXM, right, for Southpark
Right.
Magazine.
I was going to say, we just scratched the surface because you've been a reporter, as I understand, for SiriusXM, like you mentioned, NBA
Yep.
channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you contribute to Sports Illustrated and our very own Southpark Magazine,
Yeah.
which you've covered several sports stories for us, as well as sports-related stories. So your big one, I think, most recently was the PGA tournament that was here in Charlotte this past spring. And so we've appreciated your contributions at our regional level as well. So let's go back to talking about, you had mentioned that you came to teach high school math, which is very interesting, a little transition between now what you're doing now and back then. But you were, as you said, you grew up in Southwest Virginia, which, by the way, those of you who listen to this podcast know I'm also from Southwest Virginia, from Blacksburg, Virginia. So we have that in common. But yes, you've studied at Radford University and with a degree in math.
Yeah.
And at least that must have at least I would say given you a foundation for building this business that you're in, because you're a freelancer now and you're in command of your own work. I would imagine that having that kind of background really does help you and inform your choices.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I feel like I have the analytical side, right, and the business mindset that we were kind of talking about with the math degree and laying things out in that way. And then there's the creative side that I also have. And so it's very interesting, I think, weaving both sides of that,
right.
And so, but it's been good, but it's led me to a career that I love and enjoy. And I love having a math degree to fall back on at any point that I might need. And
being well-rounded. I mean, just like the sports teams and the sports people that you, the athletes that you cover through all of your different channels, you have to be well-rounded to be successful. So you were talking about your math degree.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because I just felt like I was good at math. I had great math teachers growing up. Being from the small town, when I went to college, I'm like, I'm good at math. Like, I'm just going to pursue a degree in math. And then, when I came down here, I started to see there's so many more opportunities, careers maybe I didn't even know existed. And then my passion for sports, I thought, well, wait, there's actually an opportunity to pursue that. But what that looks like, I don't know.
You don't know yet, yeah.
But the math degree, luckily, is what brought me here, teaching at Statesville High School and Huff High School and being able to coach. And
so you coached too while you were teaching math.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's sort of typical. I think that most as high schools need at least a teacher to I guess double as like a coach for math or for any kind of sports or PE. So, and what year was that, by the way?
I was in the school system 2010 to 2014,
okay.
and I coached my first year, and then I decided to go back to school to do this. So then I was like, okay, something's got to go. So I'll be here teaching math, and then was in night class, so I wasn't able to coach. But when you are a teacher, and I'm going to shout out my mom because she is in her 48th year of teaching, so that's where my passion for that came from.
Go mom.
Yeah, no, she's awesome. Teaches special education back in Virginia. So same school she's always been at. Every year she goes back, and I joke, you're not getting another retirement present because I know you're going back. So at this point, I'm like, just get to your 50.
Her. Yeah, now they need her.
And
I'm sure.
And it's her passion. And so, that's how I ended up being a teacher. But it's interesting. We were speaking kind of about the universe leading you to where you're supposed to be before the podcast. And I think teaching brought me to North Carolina, and then that opened up my eyes to being able to do sports reporting. And from there, it was emailing people, like I mentioned, and just observing and shadowing. And okay, I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to be brave enough to chase this dream. But I like having the math degree to fall back on because, one, it's a little bit of a safety net. I can always go back to that career, but I also can use that degree in multiple ways, being a freelancer, kind of looking at maybe having my own business. And also there's tons of analytics and stats in sports now. So who knows, maybe I'll go from reporter to analytics for a team at some point.
That's right. We've all read Moneyball.
Yep.
We've watched the movie.
Exactly.
So there is a career in that. And that gives you the option. It's like a feather in your cap, honestly,
Exactly.
just to give you an option to grow your business, as you said. So tell me where this passion for sports came from.
Well, if I had it like my baby photo album here to show you right now, you would see, like, before I could even walk, my parents had like a regulation size basketball next to me. So I think it was inevitable that somehow sports was going to play a big part of my life. And my mom coached at the high school she taught at as well when I was growing up. So I was always around sports, in the gym with her when she was coaching basketball. And I think part of being from a small town, if you play one sport, you're going to play every sport because they need you to have enough people for the team.
That's right.
So I think when I graduated high school, I had over 20 varsity letters just because maybe it was basketball season, but it's also cross country. So we know you can't practice for cross country, but can you just show up at the meet? Or, okay, it's softball season, but it's also track season. Can you come to the track meet? So it was a very interesting upbringing, but nonetheless, sports was a huge part of my life. So was, academics as well. So again, you mentioned kind of being well-rounded, and I credit that to my mom in that not only was the classroom important, and she would make mock tests for me that I would be doing at the dinner table, but also we're going to be at practice and summer camp. And so I think honestly that upbringing has allowed me to be so versatile now and take on these freelance, because everything I do in freelance is so different. It might be radio, it might be TV, it might be writing. And so I just appreciate what she gave me growing up, because I think that helped me be able to kind of take on multiple things as an adult.
And that's the way we all grew up, in a way that we were encouraged to extend ourselves, to do multiple things. And I'm not sure if that is necessarily the case. There's so much more stimuli now for kids when they're growing up. I mean, they've got, their connections with their friends, which we all had, but it's so much easier now to connect over, with screens and the internet and texting and FaceTime. So do you see that the level of interest in athletics, or multiple, I would say, succeeding in multiple athletics and multiple areas, has diminished, or what is your opinion about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think so much of it's subjective. Like, when kids are growing up, what are the opportunities? Like for me, the opportunities were endless because you needed everyone to be there. So I was like, I got to do this for my school. Exactly.
Right.
So I did all those things. It didn't mean I was great at all those things. Like obviously I had my sports that I focused on, but I was still going to show up and help out how they needed. Now I feel like, growing up, you see kids try different sports, and then eventually they pick one, or they're guided in one direction. And it's so interesting because I have friends that have kids who are teenagers, and it's like, okay, well, we have travel ball, but we also had the school league as well. And I'm like, well, which one do you focus on? Which one do you think opens the door for recruiting more? And it's just, there's so many different avenues, I think, now for student athletes to kind of pursue if they're hoping to play at the collegiate level, versus, when I was growing up, I just said, okay, I'm going to do every sport.
You just want to do everything, right? And everyone wanted you because, you have certain features. I mean, I know for myself, I was always tall growing up. I had no real athletic ability, but I was on the basketball team. I was on the volleyball team because of my height. Now it's so much more competitive. As you said, there's so many different avenues to really pigeonhole yourself in and say, okay, if I want to become a collegiate athlete, I have to do this track. And there's a lot more pressure too.
For sure. And you look at, I think growing up in my small town, it literally was just, okay, I'm going to try to be on varsity as a freshman and have 4 years of varsity athletics, and maybe someone from a college will come to one of my games and recruit me that way. Now there's all of these showcases, but there's then also I think it's weeding out the right opportunities for your kids, because some things, okay, if we go to this showcase, who's showing up there to see what we're doing? Or is it more, we're spending a lot of money to go play in the showcase, but does that really open up opportunities? And so I think it's really important to also say, sure, maybe you want your kid in one sport year round, but we talk about burnout. You also have to think about like longevity. What are you putting your body through and stuff like that? And so it's just a very interesting dynamic. And then, not only at the college level, we have NIL now, but, some schools and private schools, public schools, there was a big conversation here a few years ago of, well, can NIL go for high school kids, and what does that look like? And so there's just so many more things versus just, I feel like, the game anymore. It's all the other things that you have going on too.
Right. There's all the dressings and opportunities too. Okay, so for those of us who don't know, you have to tell us what NIL is.
Well, it's a very interesting state of collegiate athletics, right? And I feel like for so long, athletes who were doing big things for colleges were saying, well, you're making money off my name, image, and likeness. And I'm graduating and I'm not going pro And I have nothing to show for that,
That's
you know?
right.
And so,
So basically being able
Yeah.
to pay these athletes to come to your school.
yeah.
And this has happened, I think, just this year. Is that correct? This is the first full year, or maybe I know it's
been-
very recent.
It's very recent.
Right.
I don't know the exact first season that it's went in, but it's been the last, I think, few seasons that
Okay.
that athletes have been able to be paid for stuff or have endorsed. Maybe we're playing hoops at William and Mary. We'll go there, and
Right.
there's a local
My alma mater, yeah.
There's a local restaurant there that says, "Oh, I'm gonna come to you, and if you'll post about our burger, then I'll pay you." Like, there's so many different opportunities to do it, but also most importantly, the one that everyone focuses at is, oh, if I transfer to your school, how much money are you paying me?
Okay.
And now it's legal. I mean, we all hear stories of what it might have been in the past, but now it's changed the landscape so much because you have kids transferring year to year, trying to get more eligibility, and it changed recruiting. And so you look at even last year in college basketball, we're talking about SEC schools that are ranked, in the top
10.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, Alabama, Auburn, like this is what we're talking about. Where's
Right.
UNC? And so it's just changed, and so you have to find a way to be able to essentially pay to play, and how are you going to get the best players there? It's no longer, hey, this is our program, this is our facility, this is our resume. It's, well, I got to think about my future, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I do think there has to be a way to regulate it at some point.
Yeah, because how do other schools, like non-big conference schools, even compete with that? Because you have, like you were talking about, the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, I guess, ACC. And correct me if I'm just naming them incorrectly, but
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
I know the ACC because that's where Virginia Tech is
Yes.
part of. But that's what Virginia Tech is part of. But yeah, how do you compete if you are a good school but are not in one of those top programs?
I think schools are still navigating that, and I think it's a huge frustration. I've covered numerous coaches at the college level, and they'll do it for a year or two, realize they're never going to be able to compete on the level that they want, no matter what they go and tell a student or tell their parents that that they're recruiting, and this is what we can offer academically, this is what we can offer as a football program or basketball or whatever sport it is. It doesn't matter because they don't have the money that they're looking for, and some other school does. Or, okay, I'm going to take your offer, come for a year, hope that my stats look great, and then I'm going to transfer. So you can't build a program. And so there's been a lot of coaches that I've watched leave college athletics and go back. And one of those, I covered Boston College, and Coach Halfley was there, and he was just talking about everything I just said, and now he's back in the NFL as a coordinator, and he just said, I'm done. If I'm going to have to pay players, and I'm just going to go back to the NFL versus staying in college football. And even, I covered Mac Brown when he was still at North Carolina last year, and we had production meetings with the coaching staff, which is great. And he pretty much was like, I can't compete because I don't have the same budget as this school does or this school does. So how can I build a program? How can I fill the stands when I can't get the players here that I need to be here? And obviously that era has since ended, and now we had the hype of Bill Belichick. And
that's right.
And at some point, though, that's great. Maybe it brings people there, but then you have to win games.
Yeah, you still have to win.
Yeah.
Okay, so you brought it up, not me.
Okay.
The Bill Belichick thing, the kind of elephant in the room. So you see, UNC starting off their season not so hot, but do you think that he is he's going to have a successful? What is your take on it? Is he going to have a successful tenure here? He's gotten overshadowed by a lot of very interesting press about his significant other. What is your take on the sidelines when you're, covering a game against UNC?
I mean, I think it's so early on, right? Like, one thing I think doesn't happen for coaches, and again, it's dependent on the program and the pressure and the outside noise, but if I'm hired for any job, I want to have an appropriate amount of time to try and build something and be successful.
Right.
And I think that's something else we're seeing, people getting fired and hired and fired like way too quickly. Like, how can you establish a culture or anything if you don't have time? So I think, it's still early on in his tenure. I think the outside noise, unfortunately, has not been positive for him, especially when you didn't open the season with a big win. Instead, it was a bit of an embarrassment. And they've since iron some things out. But so I think it's just all in due time. We'll learn more. I think for him, it's probably very important for it to be a success because it's also part of your legacy, right? You had this great career. Won all these championships with
Right.
Tom Brady.
He has a huge legacy. Yeah,
and so
he's
you
a
don't
winner.
want to come here and have all the hype and the hoopla and all the extra press that we're talking about with the off the field stuff, and have that just be the last thing that you're remembered for. So I think he wants to find a way, but again, him coming and that hype obviously helped with recruiting, but at some point you're going to run into those same issues that Coach Brown was telling us about that just the season before. How can I fill the stands? How can I get people here interested in Tar Heel football? And how can I get the players that I need to compete even within my own league in the ACC?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, you just think about not too far from here back to our home area. I mean, Virginia Tech just fired their coach.
Yeah.
They were actually the first coach to be fired of the season, sadly. But he was there for a good 4 years or 3 years, I think. And a lot of fans said, he had the time to build, a program. Whereas I think just yesterday they announced Arkansas's coach was fired. And so what is a fair time frame nowadays with everything that we're talking about?
Again, a little bit subjective. And what are you inheriting when you take that job?
Good call.
Where was the program at when you hired me? Are we down in the dumps bad?
Yeah.
Or am I getting a program that's pretty decent? And most of my guys didn't transfer, because that's the other thing. A coach gets fired. Well, if I was recruited by that coach, do I trust the next guy, or do I go to someone who's calling me being like, hey, if you're in the transfer portal, like, we want you. So I do think it's a little bit of what is the program, what are the resources, and who's on the roster and who's staying. I think a good 3 to 4 years, because I think you need a chance to have your own recruiting cycle. You need a chance to have those players come in, especially if they're young, develop them, and build your culture. Your hope, I think, is, look at Wake Forest. They're in year one of the Jake Dickert era, and their best player, Damon Claiborne, easily could have transferred. He's one of the best running backs in the ACC, and instead he had a conversation with Coach Dickert, and he said, you know what? I like what you want this program to be. I love Wake Forest. I could transfer. I could probably go get a paycheck and, and maybe it'd be a little bit more than what it is at Wake Forest with NIL. But I'm going to write it out, and I'm going to stay here because I want my legacy to be Wake Forest football. So you hope that when you're hired, you have those types of players that want to stay and be your veteran leader and help kind of install this new culture. But we see that's not the case a lot of times.
Right,
so,
because the money is seductive, and so is the fame and the visibility. But then again, there's something to be said about loyalty and putting down roots and building a program where you have made the difference for the next generation. So I hope that still exists in a lot of people's minds. Those values are still entrenched, because it is very seductive when you can not only make more money elsewhere, but also have just the reach through social media, the way that some of these big schools could probably pay for your content, I would imagine, and your brands too. And you could probably actually go off brand, leave the athletic part of it after you've made a name for yourself for first few years, and then just get brands to pay you to rep them on social media. So there's a lot of different avenues for those that are starting out with talent. And let's hope that they stick with loyalty, and build a program. Okay, so let's shift gears here a little bit. And when we were talking before we started, you said that most people refer to you as Stro. Is that correct? Just the beginning of your last name? Okay, because I was just about to say, now, Ashley, tell me, but if Stro is like
totally
more colloquial, if Stro is the call out, then I definitely will use that. So that's really cool. So do you prefer being behind the desk and being an anchor when you are sports reporting, or do you prefer to be on the sidelines, and why?
There's something I love about all parts of what I do, and that's a blessing and a curse, and that I'm like, oh, I can be happy anywhere and everywhere. And then sometimes I'm like, well, what am I really like going towards, like, in this next chapter? But I think it's a good thing to find joy in a little bit of every role that I do. But for me, I think, at least where I'm at in life right now, I love being in the environment. I love being in the atmosphere. There's nothing like being at a college football game. We're going to our open. I'm on the sidelines. I've done a lot of SEC football, and there's 100,000 fans in the stands.
Right.
And you just take a minute to appreciate what that sport means to everybody. You kind of absorb the energy, and you're like, wow, like, I'm doing a hit, and I'm going to toss back to the booth, but I can't imagine what it's like for these players. And so I love being in the atmosphere, the energy, the immediate emotion of a big win or a big play, getting to talk to coach or players, and being a part of that moment. Last year I did a game where Vanderbilt clinched their first bowl game, and with their new coach, and he was all about Vandy football, and I got to interview him post game and talk about what that meant. He had his little boy with him, and so you get to be a part of these big moments in college football of in these people's lives, and so
and the moments that are meaningful to their families too.
Exactly.
And it's a bigger moment. Okay, what's your favorite opener for a college game?
Oh, man.
I'm crossing my fingers you're going to say the right one.
Well, I have to say the Hokies. Like, let's go Virginia Tech. There's nothing like Lane Stadium.
Enter Sandman and everyone jumping.
That's amazing.
Unmatched.
And we've been there as fans, which is so great to, like, be in the stands and get to, like, absorb that energy. I keep waiting to get a game assignment there, though. So
you haven't
I have
been.
not got an assignment.
You are kidding.
At Tech.
Okay, whoever's the new coach, they're going to have to
let me know.
Yes, personally invite you. Oh, wow.
So I keep waiting one day. When we get our grid of assignments, it's going to say Virginia Tech at Lane Stadium.
Yeah, we need to start winning first, and then I'm sure you'll get the assignment. But
I felt a little guilty because I had UVA this season.
No.
And that's the rival there. Boo. So I was like,
no, it's a good school.
We
all have to admit it's a good school, but still, boo. Yes, it is a rival. But yeah, there's a lot of good Virginia schools. But yeah, so obviously, Enter Sandman's a great opening.
Yeah.
What about game day? Have you been to college game day before and covered any of that?
I haven't. We haven't crossed paths at I haven't been at any of the games that they've been at to see that atmosphere. It's nice sometimes if I have an early morning or like a noon kick or an early afternoon kick, I'll do hits with SEC Nation, like on location. And so, Laura Rutledge will toss to me and I'll do something from my game and toss to the next reporter. So I'm not actually on location with SEC Nation, but it's nice to be a part of that show and that atmosphere because it sets the tone for SEC football.
Definitely. And isn't that interesting? I mean, for those that may be listening that have a kid or maybe someone that they know or even themselves that are interested in getting into this industry, they don't necessarily have to relocate the way you used to before. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like for me, I'm in Charlotte, but for all my college football games, I just get my assignment, book my flight. Luckily, Charlotte Douglas, love or hate it, keeps growing. And so that helps me get to where I need to be.
Right.
And same with doing the stuff for FanDuel this season with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'll either travel with the team or I'll fly to meet the team and then come back home. And so it's nice to have that luxury of, okay, I don't have to necessarily relocate. Now you do for certain jobs. Maybe if you're hosting, you're going to move up to Connecticut to be on campus and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of life on the road. And when I go to do a game, usually play-by-play analyst and myself, we're all from different places in the country, and we meet for the weekend, and then everybody goes back home, and you go on to your next assignment.
That's so cool. So you definitely have a network of people that you see on the road.
Yeah.
What about, you were just mentioning, though, you were doing some production work at your home and able to, when you were saying that one of the reporters was throwing to you and then you were throwing to them, that was when you were based on site. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can actually do production work too. I mean, has that landscape changed a little bit to be able to actually produce at home?
I really think the pandemic changed everything in our industry. And, we had people calling games from separate homes off of a monitor, and fans would be like, that was a delayed call. Well, yes, it was delayed because no one could be at the game.
Right, because we're in a different time zone.
Exactly.
Newsflash.
And so I think a lot of networks kind of looked at the model they used during the pandemic because we weren't traveling. We couldn't be different places, or we were hosting out of our homes or whatever it was, and kind of kept a little bit of that for budgetary reasons, which pros and cons, right? I love when we're all together on the road, or it's not like the crew's back in Charlotte and we're only the broadcasters go. Like for me, I like the family. Selfishly, I like the family atmosphere part. Like we're all on the road together. We're here to produce this game, that kind of thing. But it's very interesting behind the scenes, and I wish there was a way to kind of show that to everybody. I mean, even when I host for SiriusXM, if it's on the NBA channel, I'm literally setting up in my kitchen and and the other host is wherever he lives. No one's in studio. And when I do on the NASCAR channel, I do go up to the racetrack and use their studio there. It's just a little bit easier because we have all the
they have all
the
equipment.
things. Yeah. And even just you'll be watching any show and you'll see a reporter. Maybe they're in a box on the TV next to the host, and behind them is their bookshelf because they're at home. And so the way we've done TV, I think, has really changed, especially in the last 5 years after people were like, well, wait, we were able to use Zoom. We didn't have to send a camera crew. So I don't know.
Yeah, you cut costs, but then hopefully you can have more quality reporters and put more time and energy into the content.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that would be the goal.
Yeah, that would be the goal. Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, my guest today is Ashley Stroehlein. She is a sideline reporter for ESPN and also for FanDuel. I was going to say FanDuel NBA host. And so that's exactly what she is. She just got that role. So we're really excited that you're able to talk about that as breaking news today, basically. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about how you got started in this field. We talked about it a little bit. You obviously came here as a math teacher. But when you first decided you were going to give yourself a try at this, and you said a lot of emails to people. What was your first shot? What was your first gig? And how did you grow from there? How did you become successful?
Yeah, it's been, I love every chapter of the journey. And what I'll say also is that because I got to start behind the scenes, I have such an appreciation for everyone's role. Like I didn't start out on the air. And so I was teaching high school. My mom came down to visit. She heard an ad for a broadcasting school down here. She said, I think it's a sign. I think you should go take a tour of the school. And I said, okay, sure. And I went and I was like, wow, I feel like a connection to it. Like I like what they have to offer. All the classes were taught by people in the industry in Charlotte, and it was a shorter program. And so I went and did that. And then from there got an internship at WBT Radio with Bo Thompson on the morning show. Okay. And in that same building, WBTV is down the hallway. So when I finished my internship in radio, I said, hey, do you guys know any of the TV folks down the hallway?
Because that's where I want to be.
I was like, wait, I really like radio, but I also want to make sure, I see TV, whatever. And so they were able to get me a meeting there. And I said, I don't care what department you put me in. I just want to intern. I didn't say anything about sports because I just wanted to be in the building. So whatever you have in any department, don't care. I'll do it. He's
okay.
And it was, truly like, I don't know, fate, destiny, the universe, God, whatever you believe in.
Sure.
He goes, okay, I think we have something in sports. I said, what? No, you don't. He's like, yeah.
Like, that's actually my bag.
I was like, how did you know? Okay. And so took me to meet the sports director, Delano Little, and was able to get an internship. And from there, I basically just said, I'm in the building and I'm not leaving. So when my internship is over, we have to find a job for me.
Good for you.
They were launching a 8 o'clock at night newscast on a sister channel that they had on Bounce TV at the time. And so I would teach high school, drive to the city from Huff High School, run teleprompter for the 4 o'clock show, which still might be the most intimidating job I've had in TV because running the script on the screen for an anchor, it's a little intimidating.
Yeah, because it's all about timing, right? Did you actually have to write the script too, or just run the script?
No, I was just, but even, there's some moments where I'm like, oh, that did not go well.
Anxiety ridden. Because it's just a dial, right?
It is.
That you just have to turn.
And now a lot of times you run it
pace.
Yourself as an anchor. Yeah, you have the foot pedal or you have the remote.
Right, the remote with your finger. Yeah.
And then I would edit the 8 o'clock show, and then I would go home and go teach high school math and then come back and do it all over again. So that was Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And then at the end of that,
you loved it.
I did. And then at the end of that school year, Kiss 95.1, one of the top 40 morning radio shows here in Charlotte, needed a morning show producer. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going all in. So I said, I'm not going to come back and teach the next school year. I took the radio job. So I had to be at radio at like 5 a.m, do the show from 6 to 10. I would go home, take a nap, and then go in and do the evening stuff.
The evening show.
Yeah.
Okay.
And from there, just continued to network and try and get experience and spend any time I could around sports to learn more. Like, how are you editing a show? How do you produce it? What's your script? Like, all those things. And just Charlotte's been so good to me. Like, every next chapter has just unfolded. So from there, had a chance to move into a part-time sports role. So I was doing the morning radio show and then moved off of editing, and I would go out and there's a press conference, I would shoot the press conference, or I would shoot high school football highlights or find little stories for us to do. And then that year they're like, okay, when we get to high school football playoffs, you can come on, and whatever game you shoot, you can call the highlights too. So
cool.
That's how I
I
got to come on air. Yeah.
So that's kind of your big break there.
That was my big break.
That was your big break to call the highlights during the show.
Yeah.
Well, now when you say you shot it, did you take your own camera and did your own shooting?
Well, it was a station assigned camera. So, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was
the
me.
big clunker on the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
running up and down
wow.
a football field trying to pray that I had highlights when we got back. I hope I got it in the frame.
Yeah.
So,
I hope I wasn't filming the ceiling there.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a
that would
little
have been
intimidating.
devastating. Yeah.
And I think that's a misunderstanding too. Like for people who aren't in our industry, I mean, my role, even when I was moved into an anchoring role, it was shooting, editing, producing, writing the script, and then you go on air and do the show. Or maybe you shoot your own stand-up. Like you might have the tripod and the camera and set that up. And so it would always be interesting when people would want to come shadow and they'd be like, oh, you're carrying the tripod? You do your own hair and makeup? And I'm like, welcome to the business.
Everything.
Like, I don't know what you thought it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, at what point do you actually have all of that stuff taken care of for you?
Oh, I think you got to be.
Or still not? You still don't?
I don't know. I mean, I'm fortunate when I do the games. I'm not running around shooting, the game anymore.
Right.
So it is nice just to be able to show up and lock in and focus on one or two roles, right? Like hosting and reporting.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're still doing our own hair and makeup over here. And that's okay.
Oh, goodness
Yeah.
gracious. Wow. Well, yeah, you have to maybe that's where your math negotiation skills too will
Yes.
come in. Your,
Yep.
those scientific skills that like be able to somehow like figure out in the budget if there's a line item for hair and makeup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what is this? Can we add this in?
Can you add this
take
in? You can
back?
take it
Yeah.
from here. Yeah. Good
Yeah.
thing you know how to read those like balance sheets.
Yes.
So, but that's really interesting. I mean, you're right. People look at someone on TV or, here on social media nowadays or any kind of channel, and it looks very glamorous.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very glamorous. And not to say that it isn't. I mean, you have your reach and you have access to a lot of things that a lot of sports and people and production that many people don't have access to, but it comes with a price. Right?
And I think if if the goal is you're getting into this because you think it's glamorous,
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't be getting
Yeah.
into it. Because for me, you have to have the passion for it. Whether it's it's sports, it's entertainment, it's news, whatever it is in this industry, in any role, because you are making a lot of sacrifices. For me, there are games on holidays. I might be traveling on Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever it is, New Year's Eve, or I might miss a birthday party or a baby shower or those types of things. And so I think sometimes people are like, oh, this is so glamorous. I'm going to be doing all these things. And then it's like, no, you're going to sacrifice a lot. So if you don't love it, if you're not passionate about it,
right.
I would suggest don't think you're coming here for the glam, because
Do something 9 to 5.
It's a lot different.
Yeah,
So-
that's a really good point. That's an excellent point. When I said price, I do mean those things, those sacrifices that you make or
Yeah.
the hard work that it takes. That's a really good point. I mean, like anything else, I mean, even though the industry has changed for many reasons that we've discussed, you still have to do good old-fashioned hard work
Yeah.
to get up there.
And it's been interesting now that I've been in the industry for around 10 years that you watch people kind of come and go, and you see people who I always hate when someone gets into a situation and I'm like, just give it one more try. Like try one more job, because there's a lot of talented people that are like, I'm good on the sacrifices, but I'm like, no, the industry needs you. Like, just stick with it, or try a different avenue. Maybe it's not local TV, maybe it's radio, maybe it's writing, or I don't know. Nowadays you have your own phone. Like you can kind of take it any direction that you want on your own, in a way, even if you just do it on your own social media.
Right.
So,
you can be a producer, you can be a writer, you can be an editor, everything. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, people need those I think the people that have the institutional knowledge of how to do it and do it right and do it from scratch, I think that's what it becomes most authentic to the listeners.
Yeah.
And it translates into that relatability.
And I think that's the era we're in. Even when we think about social media and the influencer world and all that, at least I would like to believe we're heading towards liking authentic people and it being genuine versus, look at me. I have all. No, that's not relatable. Tell me about your bad day. Tell me about your good day. Like all those things. And so I think the authenticity, if you're authentic in whatever you do, that makes people relate to you and kind of gravitate towards what you're doing, whether it's telling a story, it's writing an article, or you're in the doctor's office. Like even when I go to an appointment, if you're authentic and genuine to me and you seem like you care, I'm going to come back.
You're going to come back.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
how do you bring authenticity to sports reporting?
I think for me, it's always been just, for me as a reporter, just staying true to myself. Like, for example, one thing personally is sometimes I might have a little twang in my voice, and I'm okay with that. And there's been some people.
It's endearing.
Well,
it's endearing.
But there's been some people that are like, you got to get a voice coach. That's not going to work,
Wow.
And I'm like, well, then that's probably not the job for me because I want to stay true to me. Not that I'm not open to changing things, or you think I need to get a little, let me go, okay, I'll go take these voice classes, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. But at the end of the day, I want to be authentic to me, and that's what's important. So I've tried to stay true to who I am and what I believe. And even when it comes to telling a story or asking a question, sometimes we've all been in media scrums, and it's like, I think that question could have been asked a little bit of a different way. Like, oh, no,
right.
Now they're mad at all of us, and we weren't even the ones that asked the question.
And we didn't mean it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I think it's just about, I think the biggest thing is realizing whatever team I'm covering, whatever coach I'm interviewing, like, they're people. Like, and for me, like, everyone just is a pretty normal, regular person. It's really cool that you have these superhuman gifts that you can go out on a basketball court or a football field and do these things that very few people can. But at the end of the day, I think people just want to be treated like people, like humans, And so I think sometimes people go in with an agenda, or they had the story they want to tell, and maybe that's just not the story. Like, and so getting to know these people and who they are, and I think that's the beauty of being in Charlotte. Like, I've covered, my first year covering the Panthers was 2015. So magical year. I can't wait till we're back there again.
I was going to say, let's talk about the
That
Panthers.
was great. Yeah.
What do they need to do?
Well, we're on a roller coaster. We had these moments where we're like, ooh, that was so great. That was so bad. That was so great. There's no in between.
Carowinds.
Yeah.
The Panthers are at Carowinds.
We are. We're on the ride right now. So I just, I root for them and I pull for them. And I think, again, being over there and covering the team, again, it's like I'm saying, you get to know these people, and they are humans. And it's not like anyone's excited to have a bad game. And I think sometimes people on the outside, they can be so cruel. And I get it. You are paid millions of dollars to go out and perform. And you want people to come to the game.
And people are making an investment too. And sacrificing to come to the game.
I mean, it costs a lot for a family to come to a game.
Sure.
So you want to see a good product
right.
when you go. So we all understand that. But I wish I had the answer. I wish we had, it's hard because I think the 2015 season was so magical and so great, and they just couldn't find a way to sustain that. Not even a little. It's very interesting, and I think you look at some football teams like the Patriots or the Chiefs, and they found a way to find pretty sustainable success. A lot of it is if your players stay healthy too. I mean, I wonder what it would be like had Cam not had the shoulder issue, and one play against the Steelers changed all of that. So a lot of it depends on health, but I also think maybe 2015 was just pure magic, and you had
sometimes you have that magical year.
So I wish it would have just ended with the final thing that we needed with the Super Bowl. But I'm glad we got to experience that. The city was amazing.
Right.
I always tell people, like, Charlotte is a sports city. We just need one of our teams to start with. We have Charlotte FC. I mean, they're going to the playoffs,
right.
so we'll
That's right.
We'll
and you're covering that too, right?
Yeah.
Potentially for Southpark
Yes,
next,
I
we
hope so.
Yes, let's put it out there. Let's put it out there in the universe. So before we wrap up, I have a couple more questions. If you want to just answer this, like, just off the top of your head.
Okay.
Who are some of the athletes that really stand out to you that were really impressive to work with and to interview?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, or maybe like if you've seen them play on the field and you haven't had a chance to interview them yet, but you're like, that's a star.
Yeah. Well, I will say I've been really fortunate that there's only one interview where I walked away from and I was like, wow, I'm so disappointed in who that person was. Like how they treated everybody that was around. So to only have one of those, I feel pretty good about the people that I've interviewed, and I've been really fortunate. And I do think in Charlotte, we've been blessed with some really good people that just happen to be athletes here. Greg Olson's amazing, Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, and they're all still in the community doing great things. And you've watched Greg go on to have an amazing TV career, wins Emmys. I'm like, what, Greg, what's going on? So I've been fortunate to cover those guys. And even with the Hornets, I mean, Kemba Walker, right? I mean, he was the heart and soul of that franchise when he played here, and now he's back on the coaching staff. This summer I did an article on Sports Illustrated where he was giving back to the community, hosting a basketball camp. So I think the nice thing about Charlotte is a lot of the athletes that have come through here have made homes here, and they continue to give back to the community, which is really nice to see. And then their kids are now in the community, and like even TD's kid, he's going to go on to play college football. And, Greg Olson and Luke Kuechly are coaching Little League because it's Greg's kids. And so that's really neat to see. I mean, I've been fortunate, too, to work in NASCAR. I haven't really talked about, much of that.
Yeah.
But I think about Dell and Amy Earnhardt, and they've been so awesome. And whether it's doing an interview at the track or the shop or promoting their foundation and how they give back, it's been great to build those types of relationships in the NASCAR community as well.
And that's a big community here, right?
Oh,
we can
yeah.
talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, how integral is and how important is NASCAR to this city, and what do you think the future of NASCAR is moving forward?
Tell folks we have a national sport in our backyard
Yes.
here, like the whole sport, like every team is here, and so I think NASCAR is very important to this community, because if you go, 30 minutes up outside the city, you're going to have every race team. 97% of the drivers live here. There's only a couple that, live in a different city, but everyone has roots here. And I think, there's so much history with that sport. There's history with, Charlotte Motor Speedway, and even branching out like North Wilkesboro or going back to Bowman Gray. Like that sport is just, I think, honestly kind of been generational here. We're waiting, I think, for the Panthers and Hornets to get there because they're still on the younger side of being a franchise, both around 30 plus years. But NASCAR, I think, is something that is really special to this community, and it's a sport that I've enjoyed covering, and they've been so gracious. And another one that kind of comes to mind is twofold. There was an interview I did with Sherry Pollux, who unfortunately passed away, but she was at the time longtime partner of Martin Truex Jr. She was battling ovarian cancer and used her platform in that community to raise awareness, go to government, advocate for women.
I remember.
And and I just think for us to probably not fully understand everything she was going through when she was battling that disease, and to literally do it up until she physically couldn't anymore. And so, and they still do Catwalk for a Cause in her memory, and just had that recently. And so truly appreciate being able to tell stories like that. And that one was very impactful. And on the other side, you have someone like, Mr. Hendrick, who says, come to the shop. I'll give you a tour of my car collection. And he's like, okay, that part went so well. Let's go look at the guitar collection. And so you get to build relationships with these Hall of Famers and legends and all that. So so I do think the NASCAR community is very special, and they rally around each other and try and help each other out.
And what a huge reach. I mean, the way I look at it, and I'm not obviously that it's not my forte, sports reporting, but the way I look at it is that NASCAR is kind of like the Godfather in Charlotte, right?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. It's like a
Godfather, grandfather, whatever you want to call it, like looking over all the children, making sure that everyone's stepping up their game, everyone's got the resources and tools that it needs in order to be successful. And yes, we're waiting for their time. We're waiting for the Panthers' time, the Knights and all of the baseball, the basketball, Hornets. Just to sort of reveal to us who they really can be.
Yeah, and I'm more than ready. I'm like, let's do it while I'm still working, guys. Like, I need to say at least cover this playoff run or whatever. I can't just be 2015. Like that was my rookie season. I was like, wow, this is what it is. So,
I know, that's right. You entered in like a magic time, and you just thought that it was.
I'm so grateful I had that year.
That's right. It's going to be like nothing but net from here, right?
Exactly.
For the perfect shot. So, but so what is the future then for you? What does that hold for you?
Oh, you have all the great questions today. I think, I think I'm in a new chapter. I think the last year has been a little bit of a transitional chapter for me in that I left local TV, which was what I'd known for 10 years here from my internship up until, my last job. And it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm either going to stay doing this or I'm going to take the leap and fully chase the dream that I wanted to. And I think it's important to know, like, dreams evolve and change as you grow as a person. And so when I first came here, all I wanted was to be the local sports reporter in Charlotte. Like that was the dream. And then I accomplished that. And through that career, I said, oh, I get to go. I got a one-off freelance game to go do college football. Wow, that was amazing. How can I do more of that? So then your eyes get open to something new. So I think dreams are always evolving and changing as you change and grow, or you get new experiences. But I mean, I'm really excited for this opportunity with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I will mention I should still get to do a couple Charlotte Hornets games for FanDuel as well. So
okay, good.
Not fully leaving Charlotte. And so
you're going to stay based here. Is that correct?
Yes, I'll be based here. So that I'll still be at Panthers home games and covering Charlotte FC and doing sports. You know, we can find some features for Southpark magazine as well.
That's right. We want to keep you.
Yeah. And so I think next chapter is just using this current opportunity to hopefully just build on that. Basketball has always been my favorite sport. It's kind of what I grew up watching and mom coached, and it was my favorite sport to play. So I love football, and I know it rules the school, but I'm always going to be a basketball girly.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Well, you heard it here first. Like, she'll be back for all the basketball games, hopefully, in some way.
Yes.
If you're not reporting, at least in the stands.
Yeah.
So, Ashley, do you have any advice for anyone who is looking to get into this field?
Well, I think, first off, make sure you're doing it because you're passionate about it, because we talked about sacrifices, and you do sacrifice a lot. I mean, even the shifts that you work aren't normal. I mean, I anchored the 6 p.m. and the 11 p.m. newscast. And so I'm going in midday and getting home at midnight. You're giving up holidays, and all for good reasons, because you're hopefully covering something that you love. Right. But I think first and foremost, sit down and what are your whys? Why are you passionate about this industry, whether it's sports or it's news or entertainment, whatever it is that you travel, any of those things, right? And so I think realizing that it's not glamorous, it's not going to be easy. And for me, I think I just have been very tenacious and hardworking. And there are bad days, and days you're like, man, is this it? Is it going to work out? Like, am I going to get the next gig? I don't know. And so I think you have to be willing to just do the hard work.
And say yes. It seems like you have really outlined the fact that you lean in a lot.
All the way. Like, even now, I'm like, yes. Or I'll even see something on social media. I'm like, oh, that was a really cool opportunity. Wonder if there's an opportunity like that in Charlotte or with this team or that team. And so I think,
that's interesting.
I don't think there's something I've said no to. Like, I'm trying to look back. Was there anything where I was like, no, I won't do that? I'm like, yes. What time? How do I get my credential? And what do you need from me? And I think that helps you grow and evolve. And I think it's so important too, especially in the landscape of, we have everything: TV, radio, podcasting, print, digital, social media. Like, the more well-rounded you can be, I think the more opportunity you're going to have, and the longer your career is probably going to be, just because you have to be willing to okay, let's do the TikTok trend. Like, maybe it's uncomfortable or not fun, but if that's
willing to adapt,
people, So being able to adapt is a great way to put it. And I think the more open-minded you can be about what your opportunity looks like, the more opportunities are going to come your way. And I've really enjoyed. I mean, even now, I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. How can let's do this podcast? Let's do this. Let's do that. Because I enjoy what I love. And I think through every opportunity, you have to look at it as a networking opportunity. Right. You don't know who you're going to meet, or even for me, like, you don't know what interview you're going to do that someone's going to retweet and that it might end up here or there. And so everything you say yes to is an opportunity for someone to see your work, for you to network. And I think that's so important. Just saying yes.
Just say yes, lean in. That's awesome. I love that. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for being here and to speak with me today. And we got a really good glimpse of what it's like to be a sports reporter. Not many people get that opportunity. So we really appreciate your candor today and your authenticity.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a joy.
If you're interested in reading any of Ashley Stroehlein's work, please do check it out on southparkmagazine.com. She's written several articles for us in the sports-related world and also in the physical copy. So thanks for joining us. Take care.